Gorman writes like a dream even when he's recounting nightmares. Yeah, a dream that you want to wake up from desperately because you're crying out loud, banging on the glass doors of the dream, just being like, this sucks, get me out of here. That type of dream. I was up for 2 hours last night, my mind just racing through like every embarrassing scenario that's ever happened to me, and also awkward hairstyles I wore at times where I was like, maybe that wasn't the most appropriate thing, but also about books that sucked. Once upon a time, there was a girl who just wanted to read a good book, so she walked into a secondhand bookstore and she pulled a book off the shelf, the only one that looked like it was fantasy for some reason, and this is the one it was, and this is its story. Thanks for joining me again today. I know that my mic sucks. I am in the process of getting a new one, but until then, I still need to talk about books. It's not gonna stop me because I don't have a mic, so hopefully this doesn't sound as awful as the past 2 times because I'm working on like where I am, and also now I'm not wearing my AirPods, so maybe that will help. But today I'm going to talk about men writing books that suck, and specifically writing women that suck. Like, if you don't know how to write a woman, don't make her your main character. So this is Rituals by Ed Gorman. Apparently, no writer of popular fiction is more consistently readable and challenging than Ed Gorman. This is what you gotta know. If a guy like this could get a review like that, then you're fine. Write your novel, write whatever you want, because it doesn't matter. You'll find your readers, I guess, that think you're amazing even if you actually suck. Which actually just made me feel better because I'm writing and sometimes I'm like, oh my god, everything I write sucks. But then I'm like, I write books that are so bad. I'm like, how did this pass editors and proofreaders and publishing houses? But they did. So if they can do it, then I mean, we got a chance, okay? We got a chance. So this book has an interesting premise. It's basically, well, there's gonna be spoilers for this book because obviously I'm about to rant about it. Women have a secret and they're witches. It's basically not so interesting that they're witches, it's that there's a human species, and human species and some people evolved to have some magical powers. So other people are trying to hunt them. Salem witch trials, that's the reference, right? And it's throughout centuries, there's the witches and the hunters, and they kind of just kill each other because they hate each other. Obviously the witch hunters feel threatened and the witches are trying to protect themselves. So that was an interesting premise. But now the main characters who are, there are 2 girls who are best friends. They're not the main characters, but we start off with them. They immediately get accused of being lesbians, immediately, because that's the time period. The interesting thing is that it was published in 2002, so not that long ago. I was alive back then. The way they talk just really seems like 1950 movies kind of thing. But at the same time, it says one warm afternoon in the autumn of 1975. So like, I guess it makes sense that they were accused of being lesbians, but it was like, oh, seriously, that's so freaking annoying. But they get accused and then you see them use their magical powers because one of them breaks their arm, whatever. Growing up, now, one of these best friends, she dies, and she has a daughter that's left that also has a secret. And the woman who's alive, they become close. And then they find out that people are trying to kill, and oh, another thing, you age out of magic. So like, you have your magic strongest from like the ages of 12 to 19 or something, and then you lose it, which was also just depressing. Like, imagine having a power and then being like, oh no, when you get older, it's lost. Like, that's literally the fear about growing up. You're gonna lose everything special in life and all the magical things that make this world beautiful. And I was like, is that kind of a mirror to adult feelings on losing their magical innocence of the world? But also, this guy's not deep enough to have thought of that. I'm thinking of that, and I'm sharing that with you. Like, hey, what do you think? I feel like, yeah, we're gonna go with that. So there's this guy, the evil guy, but he is evil, but at least he has a backstory where dark witches killed his family, his wife and his 2 little girls. I think they like brutally murdered them. So God, I'm so tired. He makes it his life mission to destroy them, but he's also a psychologist and a doctor, so he starts doing it not in like the traditional way where, I mean, you're dead, right? It's like he starts influencing them, giving them lots of drugs and brainwashing them to be able to kill their own kind. He kidnaps witches to kill their own kind. God, I'm making this book sound really good. Again, premise was really good. Writing was awful. He writes very racistly. Now, again, I'm not a sensitive reader at all. I don't care. I just laugh at things. Like, I'm very against women getting written bad, but like in terms of race, like he just likes to just throw in, oh yes, this was a black nurse. Like, that's just the most irrelevant thing, but also very much clearly a tier. Like he writes it in terms of hierarchy, but he also has like a random Jewish boyfriend who says the word schmuck. Like, it's so stereotyped, which doesn't make any sense. There was actually one thing that I did find interesting. Okay, there was a doctor, and he spoke about growing up really wealthy and really like upper class and stuff, and he said it took a while for him to see other people as human. I thought that was so awful. Like, is that how all doctors feel? Just, he's like, everybody just seemed like whiny brats, and he couldn't control it. And he said until, specifically he said, like, a black child died in his arms, and then he realized we're all just human. Okay, again, that's just messed up, but at least he changed. But then he did write something very interesting that I liked. Listen, I didn't blame her for my dying. There wasn't any way of saving her. I didn't think of giving up medicine. I just realized that we're all the same. You cut through all the BS, the cultural differences, the physical differences. We're the same, just lonely, scared people running around on this effing nowhere planet. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to have an infant die in your arms, because it's going to take something like that to cut through everything you've learned in upper classes about humanity. I mean, he's mentoring somebody who also grew up rich. So that was just messed up. So with a lot of like those types of little nuances where it just kind of makes you feel uncomfortable, I didn't like that. What else? Okay, the way he writes woman, it's just creepy. The doctor has a bunch of women that are drugged and brainwashed, and they just talk about him like copping a feel of your boobs all the time, and they laugh about it. And I'm like, would girls laugh about that, or would they be horrified and emotionally damaged? Because I'm thinking the latter. That's how I would feel. God forbid anything happened like that. And it was, don't like it. Then there's randomly an old woman, and she is basically a prostitute, and he writes her like she's the dregs of society. She grew up extremely wealthy, but now she dresses very provocatively, like fishnets, bustiers, spiky hair up everywhere, and I actually thought she was fun. She's like one of those people who doesn't take anything from anyone. Like, you can't mess with her because she owns it. But then somebody sees her and they judge her, and you see her getting sad, and I'm like, no, that wouldn't happen. Like, what are you doing? Why are you giving her, and like, he wants everybody to want to be upper class. Is kind of the vibe that's coming through the whole entire time. Like, hey, be higher class. You know you want it. He thinks everybody wants to be upper class, so they're sad that they're not. That's what it is. So it's like, oh, I'm at the dregs of society. I'm so sad. But it's like, you're writing them like think they're at the dregs of society, but in reality, this person is kind of just like owning her life. Kind of seemed like, again, she did seem like she had a pretty hard life, but I just don't think a 7-year-old grandma, because he keeps referring to her as a grandma, which also, she's never married, doesn't have kids. Is she a grandma? I don't think she's a grandma. Pretty sure you have to have some descendants to be a grandmother, but that's besides the point. So that's also another thing, ageism. So much ageism, I guess. I mean, for this one lady, but, and her name's Candy, of course, because she can't have just been Cynthia. I actually don't remember what her real name was. It was something with a C. She's chosen her life, she lives it, and I just don't think randomly an upper middle class woman looking at her and eyeing her up and down is all of a sudden going to make her feel less good about her life. That's what doesn't make any sense to me. I thought that was silly. There's this girl who's been kidnapped by the evil doctor, psychologist dude, and he's trying to teach her to become a killer, right? So he makes her blow up this squirrel, and she does. And he makes it that they like have a desperate need to please him. So she's like, did I do right? Did I do right? Did I do right? But also, if they see something truly awful, then they'll like snap out of it. So he kills a nurse that she's obsessed with. So then she kills him, which is cool. But this girl is like 6 or something. I don't know if they ever say her age. She's very young, okay? And one of the things that really bothered me, in the end, there's this father and this daughter. I feel like this isn't making any sense, but hey, this review could then leave you open to go read it yourself if you don't understand it. Don't read it. I don't recommend it though. So this girl, she's gonna go home to her parents, but she's staying at someone's house. Meanwhile, right? She wore the clothes of the people, and these people are like the good people, right? You're like, oh, okay, you want them to have a good life. So she's like, you think I could have some breakfast? He's like, no, I'm afraid there's not enough to go around, as a joke. Like, why would you say that to a little 6-year-old girl who's just killed someone and watched people she loved die, and now is waiting for her parents to come get her after living this actual nightmare? And he's like, ha ha ha, get up here and sit down, young lady, I'm gonna fix you a breakfast. And it's like, why'd you have to make that joke? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I feel like over this entire book there's a bunch of lines that just make you cringe so hard, and it's like people wouldn't do that in real life, or if they did, they wouldn't be good people. And then at one point, the main girl character, who's being hunted the whole entire time, she gets saved by this boy, and they start falling in love immediately. It's been like 5 hours where he falls in love with her. She's really liking him, and then turns out his father is a witch hunter, and his father wants to bring him into the fold, and he's like, no, that's crazy, I'm not killing this girl I'm in love with, like, you're insane, you're a murderer. He's like, no, these are witches, we have to kill them. And like there's this whole fight, which, okay, great, again, kind of boring, just the way he writes it, but it was actually interesting if you think about it. Maybe I should just rewrite this whole book. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rewrite the whole book. Then the father and the son are like grappling, like he locks him in his room, he jumps out the window, whatever. They run to the street and they get hit by a truck and die. And you see it from the truck guy's point of view, just like skull and bone and brain just smashed on his windshield. It's like kind of horrible. What, was that necessary, Ed Corbin? Was that necessary? I guess it was, because now she doesn't have the guy anymore, but she doesn't really mourn him. She's just like, sad, okay, moving on. So yeah, so I read that book and I was like, I just need a good book now to read. But I was in the middle of a different book on my Kindle in Discworld, so I'm enjoying that, but it's hard to leave Discworld and then go back to Discworld if you don't know what Discworld is. I'm filming! Now you're in my video. Brief intermission. If you don't know what Discworld is, it's like a fantastic series by Terry Pratchett of just magical hijinks. Really fun, really silly, really awesome. So, middle of that, but I gotta get back into that. But basically this book just kind of gave me a bad feeling because of how bad it was, but a good feeling because I'm like, if that guy could write a book, anyone could write a book. Yeah, thanks for watching. There's something in the works in the back of my mind, Bookmas, but for people who don't celebrate Christmas, so stick around for that. It's like, no, he wants everyone to like, okay, wait, start again.